everybody. Welcome to the Coach's Journey podcast. Robbie here, and the guest in this episode is Lindsey Lewis. This is a Coach's Journey short episode, which means it's an excerpt from a previous episode, in this case number 47, which remains one of my favourite episodes. And in it, Lindsey gives this amazing download of everything she learned from her coach Amber, who had learned similar things from Steve Chandler and Carolyn Freya-Jones. She gave this beautiful download of these are the 6 things that I had to learn in order to have a successful coaching business. And I wanted to cut that out and share it with you because it's an incredible little piece of wisdom from a really amazing coach. So for those who don't know Lindsey, she's a professional life and business coach, primarily working with small businesses run by caring, passionate people. She also mentors and supports coaches, teaching the kinds of things she talks about in this. And she's based in Vancouver in Canada and has appeared on breakfast television and the cover of Where magazine and been a speaker at various universities and businesses. And over the years, her work has evolved to a mission to help create a world where each person experiences and shares their own inner strength, capabilities, and true gifts in their work and in their life. And we can hear how she does that even with her clients, even when they're deciding whether to say yes or no. We get into this great conversation about that. So in this excerpt, you're going to hear Lindsey share these 6 key skills that she thinks she had to deal with. And I think that every coach needs to deal with to build a successful coaching business. And then the two of us will dive into some of them in quite a lot of detail, including structuring initial conversations and thinking about invitations and professional self and that kind of thing. And those who have paid attention to the coaching business flywheel or dived into that will see the echoes of those 2 things here. So if you haven't looked at that yet, that's my attempt to boil down a coaching business into one model. You can get a free ebook about that at coachesjourney.com. Just click the Coaching Business Flywheel button or sign up for the mailing list there, and you'll get this free ebook to help you think about a coaching business. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this episode. Do give us a subscribe or follow if you do enjoy it. Lindsey Lewis is one of my all-time favorite guests. When you spend time with her, you just feel like you've been in a shining, beautiful presence. And I hope you get a little bit of that from this Coach's Journey short.
For me, in large part, it was about being my professional self inside all my coaching communications and interactions. And I needed to move away from graspy, pleasy emojis and exclamation marks into I'm offering this something wonderful, and I'm neutral about whether or not you decide you want to say yes to a conversation. And I'm also keeping my conditioned self, my personality at bay. I mean, she's over to the side when I'm coaching. I'm now Coach Lindsey. Coach Lindsey is different than Hangout Lindsey and Friend Lindsey. And I needed to really learn to step into that in all of my communication and interactions. So I did. I also learned how to send invitations. I learned how to run an initial conversation. I learned how to make a proposal. I learned how to navigate what happens after you make a proposal when people say, holy shit, that's a lot of money, or, oh my God, that's a lot of time. I learned how to navigate that part of the conversation. And then I worked on on the inside, I worked on my relationship with money, wealth, money consciousness. That was part of the program. And these are things that I now get to support coaches that I provide mentorship to or work with as well. As I put them into practice over the years and grew my business, then it became something other coaches wanted to receive from me. So I now get to do that, which is phenomenal. But those were those were a lot of it, to summarize sort of like what I was learning and what I needed to learn.
Yeah, I love it. It's an amazing summary. So there's a curriculum there if people are listening to kind of follow. It's like the professional self, invitations, that initial conversation, the proposal, all the stuff that happens after the proposal, which is not a yes, and that is a yes.
Yes.
And then money in there as well. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. And it's like, it's hard because it's like I don't know, how long was this group program? Like 6 months or something, probably.
Yeah. 6 months. Yeah.
6 months of that plus, when was this that you did the group program?
2014.
Yeah.
I want to say.
So plus like 9 years of practicing and put this into practice.
But, yeah.
But what, when you think about those different areas now,
Mm.
for you, what were the most interesting or significant practical things that changed as you went through that process? I mean, you said one, right? It's fewer exclamation marks and emojis. I don't know if that was literally true, if that's a metaphor.
That was literally true.
Yeah, like it's a different thing, right? If you're getting a message from Lindsey, the person, and here I am, I'm a professional, right? That's one of the things I hear in that. Do you still use emojis in your private life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
WhatsApp with me, they're all there. It's all happening.
Yeah. But so yeah, what were the practical shifts, or maybe it's when you're teaching and mentoring coaches now, what are the most common things that you're practical things, because there's some coaching that happens and needs to happen, and that's in some of this, but there are also some, like you said, there's some skills to be learned about how to send invitations, about how to run those conversations. So yeah, I mean, we could take them all, we've got time, but like I'm wondering what stands out in this moment as the most significant or the least talked about, or just what stands out for you.
What stands out for me now is how to run that initial conversation, and how that's in the initial, but included in that is kind of more primary in importance, but maybe not. It's hard to say. Close, very close. The first part is a very close second. Learning how to run the conversations is how to stay in the conversation and navigate the conversation when people are processing the proposal. They're processing the reality of what it looks like to work with you, which is for most of us very different than they're used to working with anybody in any way. Because typically it's like you pay per session, you schedule when you want. It's fairly nominal. It can be a stretch fee still if it's like $110 for a therapy session or whatever it is. That's not small change. But coaching is different. At least the way that I approach it, and the way that I found value as on receiving end and on the giving end. And so it's a lot for people to take in that, oh, wow, there's some form of that reliably happens. And so learning to stay in the conversation, to see what's occurring inside the person, to support them with what is occurring inside them, for their highest good from a non-attached place, was and remains one of the most important practical tools, skills that I honed and continue to hone and got coaching around and offer to coaches that I now work with. That part is enormous in terms of creating a difference in the people we have a conversation with lives and the number of yeses.
Yeah, and I imagine also like the quality of yeses, not in any, just like getting the right people at the right time in the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, in as much or as little detail as feels right, what do those initial conversations look like for you now?
Sure. Different than when I first was learning this. I was sharing this with a client of mine in a conversation last week. I said, when I first started this, it was like I had 10-minute increments mapped out on a paper, and it would be like, okay, first 10 minutes, now we do this, second 10 minutes, you do this. And I followed that, and it worked, and it was effective, and it was what I needed at that time. Now I approach it much more open, much less structured, much less planned, because I feel comfortable with that now. But overall, I still continue to ask people to tell me everything that is currently happening in their life that they want to share, everything that they'd like to be happening in the future that they want to experience. And then I ask them what's in the way. And then I coach them around something. There's no way we cover everything. We have talked about all, like 80% of what we can talk about in the time that they've got, and at that moment in their life, what they can voice. We can't cover it all. We find something that I can coach them around. And then from there we see It's like we may put another conversation on the calendar. I may give them some homework, and maybe at the point where I say, do you want to talk about doing this more so we can get you here, this place you want to be? Do you want to know what that would look like? That's how it goes now.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important thing to say. You kind of describe, I mean, most people who have done some coaching training have seen that, whatever it is, unconscious, incompetence, conscious. I don't know, maybe you haven't, I don't know. Did you know this one?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence. Many people have seen that. You just described that, right? You've described essentially, I don't know, maybe it was, at first it was unconscious incompetence. It was like, I don't know that I'm not good at running a coaching business. And then you knew, right? You were like, where's the help? I know that I need some help with this. What is it? And then you've just described the conscious competence bit, which is, I'm going to do this in 10-minute increments. That's how this conversation works. And it's really important to say that. And I used to have at the start of every potential coaching session with a potential client, like the top, I don't know, quarter of my page was this quite small written, or maybe not. At first, it was probably a whole page that I had in the back of my notebook that I would have open. And then gradually it became a small bit, like the half of a page.
Right.
And then after a while, it became like, now I still do usually write 3 words or 4 words or something.
Sure.
And that's to remind myself to make sure that I talk about the fact that there's a coaching agreement and some things that I do at the start of a call like that. But then in the end, though, I remember it's really important to say this because I remember one of my clients who wasn't a coach saying, like, I want to be as smooth when I'm talking about this thing in my life as you just were in the first, I don't know, whatever it was, 15 minutes of this call. And it was really important to say to him, yeah, but it wasn't always like that, right? This is practice from having this conversation hundreds of times so that it's not reciting lines. It's saying the things that are important from presence. But I have said those things that are important. And it wasn't always from presence. Sometimes it was from a page of notes that I had in front of me. And that's really important. And then, though, there comes a time when it can be much more free. And there's a really nice framework and approach to those conversations that you've just shared. And then what about that second, that close second that you talked about, the being with people as they're processing that? I mean, some of it, I guess, is in what you just said. But what is it about that makes it so significant?
Well, I think what was really cool, really neat to learn, and this went through Amber's coaching, mentorship, teaching, and encouragement, was to watch for how the way we do one thing is the way that we do everything, which you said earlier on the call. And if one of our jobs as coaches is to watch for that and is to be witness to how we as human beings hold ourselves back in the habitual places we go to that get in our way, then we can watch for that as people are responding to the invitation to create the thing they want. And where does their mind habitually go that likely continues to get in their way and has been getting in their way for years? And for so many of us, that is money, and so many of us, that is time. And those are both relationships that can be transformed. And so it's a really neat thing. And it was very uncomfortable. I had to really just continue to try and continue to do it and be like, I'm sure I'll get better at this. I'm sure it will get easier. I will continue to try this. But now it's very neat to see how true that is, and how if we can hold a place of, I'm not attached to your yes, but here's what I'm seeing. Does this occur at other times for you? How often does this come up as the reason why you can't do a thing? If we watch for that, it's a really fun moment in the conversation. It's often the thing that makes the biggest difference out of the coaching session. It's fun.
and yeah, like, I love the way you're saying it's fun, because I get, that's really holding it in that way. And I really, it is a really important moment, isn't it? Because it's one of, there are a few, but I sometimes, for some people, showing up, like reaching out to a coach is what a moment that is. And And what a thing they've said at that point, because they've implicitly said, I want to change something. And they actually, took my friend Mike saying this, who's a psychotherapist as well, but it's such a powerful thing. They've also said on some level, conscious or otherwise, I believe it's possible to change. And then there's this moment where, the container of the coaching, which is, and maybe we talk about that because maybe you're doing crazy things. No wonder people are worrying about what to do. We could talk about that in a sec, but there's some kind of ask of energy, and of these things that you, as you say, are often the things that hold people back, of an ask of energy and time or commitment or money, which they're having to make a decision again about. And for people who are struggling with charging, I think it's one of the greatest acts of service that charging somebody for this is it makes them really think about it and really put their money in, and really they put their money where their mouth is, I guess is the phrase, but really check, is this the moment for me? And that's not everything it is, but it is a part of it.
Yes.
Really, with the way you're talking about it, I can really hear the service of that thing. And like you say, even if they don't work with you, if you can give them that, it may be that no one else will ever have the chance to point out in that moment with them and help them see a thing which they may have never seen or never get the chance to see. And what a gift that can be.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe before we start moving to talk about how you work now, I'm just still interested, because again, you emphasized it twice, and it does feel like it's in the sweet spot, really, of the questions that some listeners come to this show for, or are asking themselves. Most of us are asking ourselves, right? It's like, what are the things I don't know that would help me run a much, much more successful or exciting business? And, you talked about those different areas, and you kind of touched on 2 or 3 of them. What about invitations or the proposals? What about, is there anything that stands out about those that we've talked about invitations a little bit, but is there anything that stands out about how you think about those now, or what you've learned over the years?
Yeah. I think within both of those, proposals is slightly different. Let's talk about within both of those, there's a place that I need to hold it, which is, I'm sharing information and making a proposal, which is basically just talking about what it will look like to work with somebody. And then I'm making an invitation. I'm saying, do you want this thing? But I need to hold it from that place. I can't hold it. I can't be like, I am sending this email because I really want this person to say yes to this conversation. I need this person. I want this person. They must say yes. I cannot hold it like that. And nothing in the communication can convey that. Nothing in the email can be even read as that, in my experience, because then we're already in a role reversal in the scenario, in the interaction in the relationship. So I'm mindful of my wording. I'm in high intentionality. I'm in my connection to my heart and my seeing of the other person. I'm in the serving of the offering. And the offering is, do you want to have a conversation with me? I have no idea where it will go. I have no idea if you or I will decide we want anything more once that conversation is complete. And I am genuinely in that place when I offer that. We're here to have one conversation. We don't know what will occur, and we don't know if it will go anywhere after that. But I'm game to clear 90 minutes for you, or an hour if you want that. If you don't, it's also totally fine. And that needs to be my communication, as well as how I genuinely hold it. And then in the proposal, it's similar. It cannot be, I need this person's money. We all know this is coaching. We can't be like, I need this money. I am thinking about me and my needs and what's going on in my world when I'm talking about working with you, and what it would look like and how much it would cost. Neutral about the fee, because I've said it a billion times in my head, or I've said it a billion times now in reality. Neutral about whether or not they say yes or no. Curious about what they will say, because I want to see what comes up for them. And it's in the holding of it and the languaging that needs to reflect that holding in my experience.
Lovely. And so you did this work with Amber, and what happened then in your coaching? I mean, I know this is the group program was only the start of it, and you did other work with her, it sounds like, and I'm sure there have been other things, but what happened next?
I continue to do the work. It was like the brass tacks of coaching, of sending invitations, being out in the world, creating connections with people, making proposals, and then from there you have your billings, you have your incoming money from a place of clarity, non-attachment, serving, professionalism. I continue to do all that. Okay, so I was like, okay, I know this. I've seen the results. My business was not skyrocketing in terms of finances, but I had made more money than I ever had as a coach, learning these things and practicing them during that time. And I was like, okay, so this has legs now. I've seen this works for me. I've seen that it can. I continue to work at it. I feel like it never felt easy. It didn't feel easy. It was still like, I'm working at this and I'm practicing this. And I'm like, I don't have it down yet, but I'm going to keep just repeatedly doing all of these things that I know work. Get help from Amber, sign up with her one-on-one, get more support, see more growth as a result of deepening into all of the things, my personal growth and my professional growth. Seeing all of that essentially is kind of boring, I think, because all I did was continue to do the stuff I had learned, but grow it and work at it and try harder and feel like I wasn't getting it and then feel like I was. And I just stayed the path. I just stuck with it. That was all I did.
Hi everybody, Robbie here, and just a few quick things to share with you before you go on to the rest of your day. Thanks for getting all the way to the end of this episode. I'm imagining that means you think the work we're doing is important and valuable, and we think so too. And that's why I want to tell you about a way to support the coach's journey and get coaching from me and be part of an amazing group of coaches. That is, join the Coach's Journey community. It's my flexible, affordable group coaching program for coaches. You pay either $20 or £100 a month and get access to a certain number of group coaching calls each year, plus some one-to-one time with me if you're a full member, and various other benefits too. And of course, you get the chance to be connected to other amazing coaches on their own journeys. And on the calls, you can come along and try one. You just pay £20 or £100, depending on which call it is. You come along and join that call, and you'll find out that we get into helping you find authentic ways to do all the things that Lindsey talks about in this episode. You can join the community at thecoachesjourney.com/community. And of course, as I said at the start of the show, if you want to think about the coaching business through a different lens, but very similar to what Lindsey talks about in this show, you might be interested in my ebook, An Introduction to the Coaching Business Flywheel. It's short, it's to the point, it's free, and the aim is to take the mystery out of building a coaching business by showing a model for how this thing could and should work, the only things you have to do, and how they can form a virtuous circle for you. Check out that at thecoachesjourney.com or sign up to the mailing list there. And if none of that is right, you can also become a supporter of the podcast. That way you can give some financial support to us. If the community isn't right now, you can find out more about that in the show notes wherever you're listening. And if neither of those are right for you, none of those things, please do subscribe or follow wherever you're listening to the show. That helps us keep motivated to keep growing the show, keep it going, and makes a real difference to us being able to continue to keep it free. Thanks so much to everyone who's supported the Coach's Journey over the years, but in particular, thank you to Alex Whitten, Alison Malone, David Norris, Jessica Jam, Linda Ransom, and Lucy Braun for your ongoing support. Thank you too for listening, and we hope to have you back with us on the Coach's Journey podcast sometime soon.